Greetings, English 201 students and fellow literary critics. Welcome to this introductory video for Beowulf. This will become a kind of ritual for this class. Every week, you'll have access to an introductory video like this that introduces the text that you'll be reading for that week. And these videos will be structured around those three questions that you read about in our course policies document and were briefly mentioned in the course trailer as well. These words material, form, and context. So material meaning what is this physical form that a text appears on and why does that matter? Form refers to genre. What kind of genre is a work of literature taking part in? And then finally, context. What kinds of historical context can we familiarize ourselves with to better understand the text? So this video is going to start off by exploring the material, form, and context of Beowulf. And then we'll move on to highlighting some themes that will appear in Beowulf that you can be paying attention to. All right. So Beowulf is written in Old English, which is the oldest form of the English language, as you can probably tell from the title. So we're starting at the very beginning here. And Old English does not look a lot like modern English at all. And we can see some examples of that at the bottom of this screen. These are the first opening lines of Beowulf itself. It's pretty unintelligible to a modern English speaker. Old English is very Germanic in nature, so it doesn't actually have a lot of the later pieces that make up what English is today. We locate the beginnings of this language around the 5th century or around 400 CE or Common Era, and that spans about 600 years to 1066. And of course, that's a really specific date. We'll explain later why Old English comes to a sudden end in 1066, or why historians often use that as a stopping point for Old English in future weeks to come. So we'll get there. You'll also notice, if you're looking at these opening lines of Beowulf, that Old English uses a letter that has kind of fallen out of use. It's not part of the language anymore. It's called the thorn. It looks like this or this if we're looking at these opening lines, and it's simply the TH sound, th. So rather than writing TH, it uses this symbol instead. Beowulf is one of the oldest narrative poems in Old English. It's not necessarily the oldest, it's one of the oldest, but it certainly is the longest narrative poem in Old English. And at this point, if you haven't already gone to the electronic Beowulf link in the content section of our course, I'd like you to stop the video and go there and spend some time with Beowulf in its Old English. I'll even bring up the site right here. You'll be able to look at the manuscript and you'll be able to look at the manuscript transcribed right here. And then finally, you'll be able to listen to a portion of Beowulf spoken in Old English. So if you haven't yet done that, pause the video, go to that website, and check those things out. Okay, so we'll keep going. As we look at these opening lines of Beowulf, you'll also see that there's this gap in between the middle of the lines. There's this big space. This is another feature of Old English poetry known as a caesura. Here's that word right here. It's a pause in the middle of the line. Again, we don't really have poetry that often uses caesuras anymore in modern English, but this is a part of Old English poetry. Another thing about Beowulf is that while it's a story from the British Isles, we're in this British literature before 1800 class, you'll notice that it's not really about people we traditionally associate with the British Isles or with England. It's about people from Denmark, or the Danes and the Gates, which is a part of Scandinavia. It's about seafaring peoples in this kind of Scandinavian part of the world, which perhaps the people telling this story in England at the time saw themselves a part of, this kind of broader seafaring Northern European region. And while we're looking at something that seems kind of very intimidating, this language that we can't really make sense of or read, I'll just reassure you that we're not reading Beowulf in Old English. We're reading a modern translation that translates Beowulf into modern English. So you don't have to worry that you're spending the next week trying to make your way through this in particular.